Since I am the incoming chair, I would just like to say a few words. We've had our difficulties over the last year, but all of you have kept our mission to serve students in the forefront. In speaking with students, faculty, staff, and our president, it seems we are healing from any trauma that we may have experienced. And as the chair and as a member of this board, we are committed to assuring that everyone receives fair and equal treatment and is treated with respect and dignity. We are all here to do our jobs, and we can do that and continue to do that to make Santa Fe Community College the invaluable resource in this community for learners and students of all ages. I want to thank the professionalism and the courageous actions of the Faculty Senate and the Staff Senate last year. It's time for those entities to become even stronger voices for the people you represent. I also want to thank President Grisham for stepping into the role of president, healer, and leader. I too want to thank Dr. Carmen Gonzalez for her leadership in always putting student needs first. And thanks to all the faculty and staff for your ongoing commitment to the students and the college. As a board, we will be reviewing and rewriting our own board policies, as well as working with the campus community to update all policies. I, for one, want us to create a policy that provides a safe venue for discussion and disagreement without fear of retaliation. It seems almost every week Santa Fe Community College is recognized for its extraordinary accomplishments of our students, or a new grant or innovative program or an award for one of our faculty or staff. We are vital to this community. You only need look at the graduation last week to see how all those new students who came to Santa Fe Community College when the recession hit, and when there were no jobs, are now graduating with new hope and opportunity. Working together, we will continue to move this college forward. Thank you. Okay, President's report.
I'm going to just give a brief oral report. Obviously, the last week and this week is focused on graduation-related activities. We did have the nursing penny ceremony on Friday, and as Chair Siegel mentioned, we had the graduation ceremony on Saturday at the Santa Fe Indian School. I want to thank all those people who worked on the committee, those that worked on Saturday. It was a great graduation, and if you didn't see it, there was a great story in the New Mexican on Sunday that is very well worth reading if you haven't seen it. We have the GED graduation tonight. Tomorrow night we have the graduation from the Masters Charter High School, which is on campus. And then I and other people from the college will be participating in all the various Santa Fe Public School graduations, which start tomorrow morning with the Academy at La Arguete, and then Thursday morning Santa Fe High, and Friday morning Capitol High School. So that'll be a full week. A couple of just honors and recognitions. We just got a letter today. Carla Slentz, who's one of our full-time faculty members, has just received a STEM Faculty Summer Research Professional Development Program Award. She'll get a stipend. And she's only one of 3 awards to New Mexico applicants that weren't from a PhD granting institution.
Wow.
So congratulations to Carla. And then formal recognition will take place in the fall, but we have 3 faculty members who are going to advance in rank. Dr. Francis Rodriguez is moving from assistant professor to associate professor. Dr. Bernadette Jacobs, who I believe is out there, is moving from associate professor to professor, and Kathleen Finn Brown is moving from associate professor to professor. And so they will be formally recognized in the fall at convocation and then at another event in the spring. So that's just a quick report there. Now we want to go into, Ann Black is here today, and Ann's going to give us a fairly quick update on contracts and grants. Just want to remind you, Ann is over both areas. So contract training, this is not the accounting side of contracts, this is contract training, things that we do where we charge our customers for taking training, whether it's credit or non-credit. And then she's also leading the charge on a number of grants, and so she's going to bring you up to date on that. So, Ann?
All right. Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom.
Move a little closer.
A little closer, sorry. All right. Okay, yes, my name is Ann Black. I'm the Director of Grants and Contract Training. Thanks for your time today. I'll try to be brief. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about our contract training and what we're doing. Our focus is primarily on the environmental, green building, and weatherization area. We are accredited through IREC, which is the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, OSHA, as well as being an EPA renovation, repair, and painting. And in addition to that, we have some other clients like LANL that we're doing soft skill training, strategic planning with PARA, and so we're hoping to kind of expand in those areas. Right now, our estimated revenue for this year is about $347,000. Oh, I didn't tell you to move it, sorry.
Sorry.
Move to the next slide. Okay. Let's move on. Next one.
Okay.
Thanks. So the other side of the house for our office is grants, and our purpose is to facilitate the development, submission, and management of grants, including federal, state, and local agencies. And we work for both the college and for the foundation. Total grants since inception is about 15 million, and that accounts for grants that may have started 5 years ago but are still running.
Just, excuse me.
Yeah.
Inception of the college?
Inception to date of the grant.
No, since Ann's been actually looking at this,
Yeah.
so since we've had this office, these are the total
I
of grants
see.
that we're managing.
And since when have we had the office?
Just over a year.
Okay.
Yep. Or not quite a year.
So
Yeah. 15
million in the last year.
Not quite
But
15.
they may be prior year
Yes.
grants that
Yes,
are-
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Managing.
Yeah, okay.
And if you want to move to the next slide.
Before you go on there, so when we talk about the budget, we have basically a $35 million institutional budget. There's about plus 15 million in grants, plus the plant funds.
So this chart here is our organization. I report to Margaret Peters, and the folks that report to me, we have an administrative assistant, Evelyn Gonzalez. Couldn't do anything without her. Amanda Hatherley, or used to be Evans, she's the Energy Smart Academy director and also director of our National Science Foundation Sim Building grant. And Janet Curley is our EPA and OSHA program manager. She both does training as well as manages those programs. And then Phyllis Baca manages all of our STEM projects, and that includes the Northern Rio Grande STEM Collaborative, STEP, and AMP. And then I manage the Perkins Basic Grant for the college. So that's kind of our structure. If you want to go to the next slide. This is kind of small, so I'll just go through this really quick. This is just kind of how we look at doing proposals. And grant writing and grant development is really a team sport. And so I'm not necessarily the grant writer for the college. I like to think of myself as like maybe the midwife. I'm not the one giving birth, but I'm helping it come along. But it takes a whole lot of folks to put together some of these proposals. And we've got, of course, some great staff and faculty. So our first step is to find funding to develop the project idea, to gain institutional support, and hopefully match that project idea with funding resources. Now, sometimes that's turned around. Sometimes an opportunity comes along, and we see how we can match what our needs to that opportunity. And the next step is our proposal development, and then finally our grant submission. And so our office is really just here to help facilitate that whole process and make sure that who's ever involved in the grant process has the resources they need to be successful, or for the grant to be successful. Maybe the next slide. So these are our recent and pending awards. Since January, we've gotten an AARP Foundation Women Plus 50 get that job, and that's to help women who are re-careering, who are over 50, coming back to school. We also got an couple NSF sub-awards through University of New Mexico, and that about $50,000 will be for a biofuel sensor as well as professional development in the biofuels area. We also got some funding from P&M to support building operator certificate training for veterans, and so we'll be starting that up here pretty soon. And then some grants pending and in progress. We submitted a grant focused on STEM and IT, and we're waiting on that. We also submitted a youth build grant for $1.3 million. We submitted for the American Association of Community Colleges Green Genome Award, and we're also working on a DOL TACT grant currently. So I'll talk about the TACT grant here in just a sec because it's pretty big. If you want to go to the next slide. So this has been my life for the past month and will be until July 7th. And I know I told folks in a meeting we're not submitting any grants right now because this is our focus, but I'm going to be open to other grants, but this is really an all-out effort. Santa Fe Community College is leading a consortium grant for the Trade Adjustment Assistance Community College and Career Training. I need to memorize that. This is the last round of funding, and there's $450 million available through the Department of Labor. And we are leading the SunPath, Skill Up Network, Pathway Acceleration in Technology and Healthcare. So we're focusing on healthcare as well as health information technology. And these are our 10 colleges that we're working with. Right now, San Juan and Carlsbad are still not quite committed, but we're hoping they will be, because that will allow us to move up to have an 11 college consortium and be able to ask for more money. Part of this grant, Yash Morimoto has just been really instrumental in. We're looking at trying to fund an extra $2 to $3 million to improve our data systems statewide, and working with Department of Workforce Solutions to do that. And that's about it. So I'm happy to take any questions anyone might have.
Questions? Yes.
I just want to quickly say, and I know that I've had this conversation with President Grissom too, that I think the Sun Online model, the pathways that we're working on with Sun is such a great and important program. An important program to make sure that our students can make it there quicker. I know we as an institution, and I hear from other institutions throughout the state, I couldn't finish my degree any quicker because the class got canceled. There weren't enough students to make. This online system allows us to combine with Hobbs Junior College or San Juan College so that all our students can take the course together. So their 2 students are 4 students, and their 6 students create a class, which is such a great idea, especially in a state with as many colleges and universities that we have, and with as small of a population as we have, it absolutely makes sense. And I'm so glad that Santa Fe Community College is taking a leadership role in sustaining that model.
Thank you, Ms. Ski.
Madam Chair, let me just add to that. The current TAC grant that we have, we did get a 1-year no-cost extension, so we did have some funds left. So we're going to be able to continue doing the things we're already doing for another year without having to go get other funding. So that was good news.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Pavel.
and thank you for a great program that we have at the college. What are we doing in terms of letting people know what we're doing?
Sure. We work closely with the Marketing and Public Relations Office. Whenever we receive a grant, we send out press releases and try to promote that good news. The EPSCOR grant that we just received was printed in a national algae magazine promoting the new sensor that we'll be able to be purchasing. So.
Madam Chair, let me add to that. We want to do more marketing of our contract training opportunities, but we really need some more people. And so we've been looking at, can we hire some people who might be like salespeople? Because we have the ability to deliver more. We just don't have the bandwidth to get out there and knock on the doors and do those kind of things. So that is something that we're looking at. I didn't feel comfortable in trying to work it in this year's budget for obvious reasons, but it is something that we probably need to do because, as we all know, you got to spend money to make money. And this is one of the areas where we are trying to diversify our funding sources for the college. We make profit off of all of our contract training. Almost everything has a markup. We have to, compare what we charge to market prices, if there is such a thing. But we do make a profit in those areas. So this area makes a profit. And then on most of our grants, not all of them, we get indirect cost. Some it's not allowed, but those come back to the college, and then we can use them for whatever, and we're using some of those to actually pay the Amanda Hatherley and the Janet Curley are bringing in more than enough revenue to cover their salaries.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions to clarify with this new office. So when you don't write all the grants, somebody comes to you with a grant idea, a faculty member, or tell me.
Yeah, correct, Madam Chairwoman. What usually happens is someone comes to me with an idea, and in many cases we hire a grant writer to assist if it's a large grant. In some cases, the faculty member or the individual writes the grant themselves with assistance from my office. And in one case, I wrote one of the grants and then hired just an editor. So it can work many ways, but. I'm really working on that cloning technology, and once we get that down, then we can just have. But it's hard just with one person to kind of write and then manage.
So we do hire someone outside the campus to write some of the grants.
We do.
Okay.
And let me just add, in addition, Los Alamos has actually provided grant writers to us.
For free?
Yes.
Yes.
And then a second question, in the monitoring of the grants to see if we're complying with everything, is that your office or is that someone else?
That's actually primarily in the finance offices area, is to monitor the grant, but I do liaison with their office quite often.
But for like performance of program activities, that wouldn't be finance, would it?
No, and that primarily falls under the project director's purview and whoever they report to. And we're really I'm really wanting to kind of try to expand that technical assistance across to folks who have some of the bigger federal grants, and especially for new grant directors, and try to help them understand all the rules and so forth. The OMB circulars are changing. We're now going under the Omni circular that's just come out, and so that's going to be a learning curve for everybody.
Madam Chair, that is an area that we need to put some more emphasis into. Obviously, the financial tracking and billing of grants is important, but we really do have to make sure we're on top of all the deliverables we've promised, all the timeframes for reports, some of which are financial, but some of them which aren't. And that is an area that we've talked about, that is an area of concern that we would like to do more with, because we want to keep getting more grants.
Right. So who is responsible then for assuring the program piece?
Right now, it is whoever is the project director for the specific grant. And every grant has a project director assigned to them. In many cases, they're being paid for by the grant. In some cases, it's somebody else here that's overseeing that grant.
So if they're in a program under a dean, then that dean is ultimately responsible for making sure that program director within his or her arena or...
Madam Chair, that's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Let me get Martha and then Pablo.
And thank you. Who does the evaluations? Is that part of the program director's job? Is that part of your office? Is that somebody that you might hire outside to do the evaluations and the reporting to the grantor?
In some cases, it's the grant director. In other cases, some of the larger federal grants have external evaluators. and they do an external evaluation.
But they do it under the direction of the grant manager.
Yes, exactly.
Pablo?
Madam Chair, same line. We have quality, I'm sure we have quality personnel that is monitoring the project. So when you say it's the project director that's responsible to execute and make sure that we're having the desired outcomes that they require, does anyone else oversee that?
It should be their supervisor who is overseeing, making sure that they're meeting the project objectives and deliverables. And in some cases, I have grants that are under me, and I make sure that the project directors under me are meeting their deliverables.
Madam Chair, Member Cedillo, just to give you an example, the current TACT grant, Kristen Krell comes to me every month, every quarter, usually, or maybe it is monthly now, I think. But anyway, before they send the reports, and we go through the reports.
Okay.
And so we do review those. We do rely on Yasha's office to provide the data, so we're not pulling the data on our own. It comes from the Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness.
So there is some collaboration in getting the work done, and there is someone, at least finally, that says, this is the quality that is suspected of us.
Definitely. And it also depends on the size and scope of the project.
So I have another question, Madam Chair. Do we utilize any of the talent that we have within the college? I'm talking about maybe students that could intern and assist with that. I think it's very important that we develop that leadership or that's those skills within our own institution.
Do you want?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Member Cedillo, let me address that. I don't know that we've used students very much in writing grants, but they have been involved in putting together background information. But for example, in the EPSCoR grants we have right now, we're actually paying students to do research in biofuels area. So they're actually getting college credit and getting paid to do some research that will be published.
Okay.
And so, many of our programs directly benefit students through programs that are being offered, but now we're actually doing grants with specific things for students. But I don't know that we've used our students necessarily in writing grants, except for Willie Longo Torres back there has helped out with some, and he's both a student and a staff person too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he has got a bit of experience.
He has a lot of experience.
No, I would love the opportunity to work with a student or two, and to be able, if that's their career goal is to have some part of technical writing, to work with them. I'd love to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Employee of the month.
April, pass it forward. Magali Gomez nominated Jane Abbott. I see both of you here somewhere, didn't I? Yeah, come on up.
Thank you for coming today.
Hello, everyone. Ms. Linda Siegel, Chair, dear members of the board, Mr. Randy Grissom, dear colleagues present. I wanted to pass forward the award for Employee of the Month to Jane. Jane Abbott is the director of the TRIO program, and she does an amazing job serving the students through that program. They do counseling, they do advising, they do tutoring. So the program really is very effective, and they do make a difference in the life of our students. Jane is also an advisor for the chapter of the Phi Theta Kappa organization at the college, and she does a fantastic job in that area too. I want to say that Jane is a personal role model for me. She behaves ethically every single time. And the most important thing for me is the professional respect I get from Jane. She treats me as if I may be very well be the president. So thank you, Jane, for that, and thank you for your work.
You're welcome. Jane, do you want to say anything?
I think Magali covered most of the things that I do.
All right, thank you.
All right,
And I
thank you so much.
appreciate her support.
Congratulations, yes.
Just to remind everybody, the student speaker at graduation was one of the TRIO students, so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in the last 4 years, 3 TRIO students. I just have to tell you.
Hey.
That's great.
Let's see, the Wild Graham, we had Dion Anaya nominated Cindy Trujillo. Are either of them here?
They were not able to be here, but I have the Well Graham nomination form of Cindy by Dion, and it says, Cindy always has the answer to any question I have. She's always very helpful, patient, and has a smile on her face. She has made me feel welcome, and I really appreciate her very much.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, do we have any public comment?
No public
No
comments.
public
No one
comment?
signed up.
All right, then we have Faculty Senate report. Clark?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Madam Chair, President Grissom, I apologize first that we had a little challenges in our communication of getting our minutes forward at the end of the semester. And so what I'm offering this evening, hopefully then, is a summary then of the discussions that have taken place within Faculty Senate over the past 2 meetings. I'll read you through this, I guess. Actually, there's some, including updates from a couple of task force meetings that are going on as well. Policy 1-11 shared governance is being reviewed and discussed beginning through the summer and the fall, and the task force there is identified with the administration, the staff members, and then the faculty members. And we've met once really just talking about the current policy and people's perspectives on it. And then we're to meet again a couple times over the course of this semester. From my personal reading of that very important policy, I would point out one item that I think are very important in there is there's an active appeals process that as it moves through a shared governance process, it can wind up before you as the board, and I'm just observing that. And I think that's fairly unique, actually, and I think it's really quite a wonderful thing that actually potentially activates this board in an active way to resolve issues from within our internal process. I'm not actually aware that's ever been utilized, but I think it's a neat clause. And so we're reviewing our current policy and formations in the shared governance structure from Faculty Senate, and we'll probably be looking at some other institutions and trying to see what else can be done in that sense to strengthen it. Policy 4-12 Faculty Workload Task Force was convened, I think, at behest of Mr. Grissom, President Grissom. We've met, or Margaret Peters perhaps as well. Robert Shankin has agreed to chair that task force. It's also composed of Greg Dye, Marcy Iannarino, Sarah Snyder, and myself, and we've just met twice really to begin to identify the core issues related to faculty workload, and then we'll reconvene on that in the fall when people return from it. It probably just needs updating, I think, in a lot of ways. There are certain anomalies or contradictions within that, and trying to bring that into some clarity that identifies well for us with Santa Fe Community College. 2 separate things here. This is coming forward, the next 2 points are coming forward out of Faculty Senate. Annually request that no work affecting faculty come to the board over the summer break while there's limited faculty on campus. President Grissom has been supportive and understanding. Stipends have been offered where there's identified need during the summer, that we don't really have like critical mass necessarily during the summer. Second point, this is a motion out of Faculty Senate. Due to the amount of preparation that faculty departments and schools need to do in order to be ready for fall semester, faculty like to request that during the week of convocation in August to fall 2014, the afternoons be left open for faculty to do academic prep, advising curriculum work, and departmental meetings. We'd like to suggest that trainings and workshops be scheduled for the mornings and be optional. And I think this is not news probably to President Grissom and academic Vice President Margaret Peters. Adjunct faculty report about 1.5 years ago, originating out of Faculty Senate, was a request that the college consider an AQUIP action project to examine the college's relationship with its adjunct faculty members. In Faculty Senate, we were receiving any number of suggestions and observations, critical feedback that we really didn't know where to place that exactly. And so that was the impetus of that discussion, that now we're having an Equip Action project over the summer, and really want to thank Yash Morimoto and Jill Carlson for their diligent work on that project. It's meeting over the summer with Dana MacArthur, Sutapa Chatterjee, and Miranda Merkeline. And the project is to propose an orientation for adjuncts during convocation in August 2014. So we're happy to see that going forward, and there's been very good effort, I believe, from the institution, the administration, to try to get feedback from the adjuncts about what would make their teaching here and their life here more effective and more acknowledged. And so we're really happy about that, and that's good.
If I could just add to that, I think this is the first of many projects that we'll have related to adjunct faculty. We decided instead of doing one big project, we're going to do doable projects along the way. And of course, one of the things that we're doing, hopefully over the summer, this is a direct result from the survey we did with adjunct faculty, is the remodel of the adjunct faculty and expansion of the adjunct faculty office area. And we reviewed that at executive team this morning, and as soon as we get the pricing on that, hopefully that'll be ready for fall.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Faculty handbook is in discussion for review and update. The college has had several iterations of that over the years. I found one in my office from 2000, actually, that I'd forgotten about. So we've got some process that started on it but continued then again in the fall. Faculty handbooks then are intended to be comprehensive resource references for the governing board, administration, and faculty in regards to policy and procedures. Ours has been on again, off again over the years, I think, and it's a good opportunity to try to review and update that. David Seco, Steve Martinez, myself, and Megan Hopkins are volunteered from within Faculty Senate to participate in that committee. Both Steve Martinez and David Seco bring some wealth of experience and information to that project, so we're happy to be going there. Next point, faculty interest. This is out of a conversation in Faculty Senate. Faculty Senate and faculty interest in extending shared governance participation through Faculty Senate to SFCC professional librarians. The professional librarians are often at many institutions on a faculty contract. This would not affect their contractual status necessarily, but we feel that their voices and expertise are closely aligned to curriculum and faculty goals. They're often much more familiar with process and budget and other resources in the college that it would add, I think, a more developed and mature perspective to some of the information within Faculty Senate itself. And so the vote that day of about, I think, 15 people within Faculty Senate was unanimous in interest of extending that offer. It would require revision of the Faculty Senate Constitution, which does acknowledge them, and that would eventually, should it go forward, would wind before you to ratify that change in the Constitution. We've spoken to Ms. Peg Johnson, and she's understanding of that interest and is accepting of it. It would not be required of them to participate through this venue, but it would leave an option for them to do so. And then your Faculty Senate officers for fall 2014 and summer through to summer 2016. I've been renominated and selected as for second term as Faculty Senate Chair, and Ms. Colleen Lynch then steps up for first term as Communications Coordinator. And Carla Slentz completed her 2-year term. Extending for 1 year continuing officers then is Greg Dye, Business and Trades, and Phyllis Baca. And then the SFCC AAUP Advocacy Chapter met regularly during the semester and will continue to do so. I think we probably have about 30 members now at this point, so we're still doing well there. Good. That's the news.
Congratulations, I guess, on being reelected.
Thank you. I encouraged nominations, but it seemed like that was the only one that people got to. So I mentioned before, I gently chided people that really you should be seeking more kind of a competitive process, but I'm happy to try to continue.
We have a question, Martha.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions. One is in the, let's see. Now I can't read my writing. Oh, I was wondering if that does the morning sessions are being intended for workshops and that kind of thing in the orientation, in the convocation week. What is the afternoon displacing if it's left open for faculty work?
Well, typically there's there can be any number of seminars and various informational forums that are very valuable, but in that convocation week and the week following, the time gets kind of precious in the build up to the question, or the classes, essentially. There's various workshops and participation forums that are valuable, but the feedback from within faculty was asking for leaving the afternoons open so we could get to the class time, advising and office hours and working with the students. Does that answer your question?
So is that the professional development that occurs on a routine basis, or are there other things that happen throughout the year?
So, Madam Chair and Member Romero, traditionally during convocation week, we have packed the day from 8 to 5 and sometimes from 8 to 7.
Every day?
Every day. And we started changing that over the past couple of years. And we would like to leave the afternoons open, except for when we have the adjunct faculty dinner, and usually we try to do something early on that afternoon because they come in the evening. But every once in a while we keep running into something we just don't have time to do it if we don't do it in the afternoon. Or occasionally we do an all-day event. We are trying to honor this as we plan for future semesters. We don't have much chance to do professional development for faculty during the semesters because they're so wrapped up in teaching, and their schedules vary from time to time. Now, we have identified some time frames in which very few faculty typically teach, and so we could do some professional development during those time frames. And we do professional development throughout the year, some of which is even online. But this is the time where we actually have a chance to have faculty and staff be together. But then a lot of staff, like the Welcome and Advising Center, can never really participate in anything other than the convocation morning because all the students are piling in.
My second question has to do with your faculty handbook and the revision and its revision. Are you thinking about how that, the board has made a commitment and is moving toward reviewing and revising all of our policies? And so I'm wondering, is there some discussion about how that will coordinate with changes that will be made over the next several months on that?
It needs to occur in tandem. That the shared governance policy or the workload policy, any policies having to do with students or faculty, if they're up for review or revision, would also need to be included in that. The older copies of it that I have were hardbound copies. There is a site on our website that's a challenge to sort of locate for the faculty handbook, and it seems to refer more or less just back to an organizational structure and existing policies. It really does not give the sort of summative like formatting and presentation that typically you see in institutions of higher education. The conversation is to review it, and then David Seco and Steve Martinez had recommended as models a couple of other institutions that they were familiar with that thought that contained some good language. We'll be looking at those. I think it should be designed as an InDesign document or something of that sort and held as a PDF document that is downloadable and portable. But then when some question arises, and it's something that we have to be updated every time a policy is changed, but it should be a comprehensive resource guide to when a question comes up. The way it is now, that I don't know that we do that, essentially.
So the policy language might be somewhat altered.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. It's actually a good time to review it if we're looking at policies for revision and updating, because it would be something that should be moving along with a cluster of certain policies anyway at that time frame to review it in tandem.
I see. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Clark, thank you for your leadership in the Faculty Senate, and to keep helping us stay in line Saturday on the convention. That was good. It was quite an experience for me. Tell me a little bit about the librarians. Is that a proposal, or is that under consideration, or their participation in the Faculty Senate?
In the shared governance process at Santa Fe Community College that I'm familiar with, they are under a staff contract and have been participating in shared governance through the staff senate. We're not trying to change that through some change of order, essentially, but then professional librarians within colleges and universities, to my knowledge and experience, are more often more closely aligned with the curriculum and teaching and roles of the faculty. And they, in my opinion, they would have the possibility of sharing some similar viewpoints in that regard. And I think my personal, and I was the one that introduced it as a topic of conversation, because I believe it would add a needed additional perspective within Faculty Senate. We need some diversity, I think, that brings a little bit, they have more administrative experience, I think, often. They have some budgetary experience that often, I just think it would round out the voice within Faculty Senate in a good way. And so then I had done a little research on it and had it corroborated. Peg Johnson, who is our current academic librarian, was in Faculty Senate at the College of Santa Fe when she was there. It's not that unusual, really. Ours is just aligned this way. And so then we had a discussion just at the grassroots level to see if there was an interest, and indeed there seemed to be from two. One was indifferent. Another person chose to probably keep aligned to Staff Senate. And so it's not enough to really change any major decision, I think, coming out of those governance bodies, but it would give an opportunity for a broader viewpoint and input, I think, potentially. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Clark.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Staff Senate report.
I'd like to, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. President, first I'd like to welcome our new Staff Senate co-chair, Janelle Johnson. Go Jackrabbits.
Oh. Hi, I'm Janelle, and Madam Chair, Board, and President Grissom. I agreed actually to serve as Staff Senate Chair when Susan left until we have our elections. Our elections are actually in August. So from that, for this time, so that we have two co-chairs, I agreed to serve. And basically, we just want to update you. Have our notes from the last two meetings. We want to update you. What we're doing right now is currently voting on our new Constitution revision. That goes through till tomorrow when we actually have a Staff Senate meeting, and we'll take the final tabulation on that. We have a Constitution committee, so we are also going to have some bylaws that go along with that, which will answer some more of the questions that aren't in the Constitution itself. We also have some subcommittees that we have going right now, which are discussing some concerns, one of them being some things about HR, concerns that we're calling it an HR subcommittee. It's not a concern about HR. I want to make that clear. It's more, yeah, it's more staff bringing sort of concerns that they have and wondering sometimes when it's not being answered where they can go with that. When the officers met with Randy, we did discuss that. Our role in that would be more like compiling concerns, because obviously we can't deal with individual, concerns, employee concerns. The other thing that we're working on is sort of a Staff Senate promotion committee with going back to this version of shared governance, which when we first had shared governance and we had President Ortego, I actually was a co-chair at that time and attended those shared governance meetings. So we are very happy to go back to that model, but we're talking about how that's going to work and basically trying to promote Staff Senate as being viable as part of that. And one of the things Zuby and I were talking about is it's important that it comes from the board, it comes from the administration and the president, the importance that staff participate. It seems that with any of these kind of shared governance models, if there's a lot going on, then a lot of people come to Staff Senate, a lot of people come to Faculty Senate. If there isn't a lot of things that are controversial going on, then a lot of times people stay in their office and work. So we want to make this really more viable and have people be more committed to the Staff Senate and to the Faculty Senate. Do you want to talk about the...
So you may have noticed in our notes, we did pass a resolution in our last meeting about looking into, some of the staff are very concerned that there are no steps, as faculty have steps within their contracts that the staff do not have any steps. So some have noted that the easiest way for them to get significant increases in pay commensurate with developments at the colleges to actually quit and reapply for their job, as opposed because they can only get cost of living if they just stay in their current position. So we understand that there are complications with that, and that may make it more difficult to manage the college, but we would like if and our final resolution was requesting that there at least be a look at the financial viability. What would be the cost and benefit of moving towards staff steps, and what is the actual cost of the faculty steps, so we can look at them. Many people feel that they are treated as second-class citizens because we have that very big difference in promotion and moving up within staff versus faculty. We do want to thank you for your comments, Chair Siegel, and again, we are really working very hard to increase participation in the Staff Senate, and any support we can get from the administration, from the board, letting people know that this is an important thing, an important role for staff to play in helping to grow and support the college. We appreciate that. If not, I can certainly stir up some controversy, and then we know that always brings more people along. So, and the other thing we're involved in is looking at the shared governance policy. And one of the things that came up in the second meeting we had talking about that is, what is the role? And right now, we really like the current policy, but I think we might look deeper into, do staff, faculty, student administrators all have equal and identical roles to play in governance, or maybe are there different roles that we want faculty to play than staff? Are there interests that are more important to faculty, more important to staff, more important to students? And I think looking into whether just everybody having equal votes or there being special roles that each of us play in developing policy for the campus might be more appropriate. But we'll be looking into that, and I'm sure we'll have a great report this fall to bring forward to you.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
Thank you.
I appreciate, I think that's a legitimate concern. I wasn't aware that you can't move within the salary ranges as a staff member.
Madam Chair, members of the board, right now, in the staff, there is no steps. And so the only raises you get is if you get the cost of living raise, or if you get another job and get promoted up.
Jobs.
Now, I will say, and I'm not going to say that we don't need steps, but there are more opportunities for staff to move around than there are for faculty, because when you're hired as an English faculty, you're English faculty, unless you want to move up and be a chair or a dean. Or a vice president. So that's one of the reasons that that's been more traditional. But this is something I think would be interesting to look at. I don't know how you would structure it and how you would fund it, but doesn't mean we shouldn't look at it.
Right. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Did you want to say something, Carmen?
I just wanted to ask a question. Do we award people when they receive a degree, like get an associate's or bachelor's? Do they get anything?
In staff, we don't.
Staff, they do.
No, I was gonna say, in the past, we haven't. When people go ahead and get a higher degree and we're an institution of higher learning, we haven't awarded them. And the thing about moving within your range too, or moving to a different position, for some positions that's not as easily done. Because depending on what your position is in staff, it might not be that easy to do it. The other thing that some people brought up that was curious is we have pay ranges. So when you're hired, there's a pay range, there's a grade and a pay range, and a lot of times people are hired in the middle of that pay range. So one of the questions brought up is, why is there a pay range if you can never move within it?
Yeah. I think it's a legitimate question and something we should look at. So thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what's our time?
Maybe we did get through all the reports.
Okay, student government. Mr. President of the student government.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I just had a few quick things. I wanted to congratulate and introduce who's going to be the new SGA officers for the following year. We have the new president, Mr. Willie Longo, in the back.
Could you stand up? Yes.
Then vice president is going to be Eugenia Bacalandra. Secretary is Tony Cobian. Treasurer is going to be Annette Ramos. Then we also have our SGA retreat tomorrow to train the new officers how to do the job. And we're also still accepting applications for 3 senators for the fitness education, liberal arts, business, and education. Also, I would like to thank the board for my time here on it. Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you. So does your term end now, or do you go through the summer?
It technically ends the 5th of next month. So whenever summer school starts, my term's done.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your service with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
We probably got a couple more minutes. We have to
Okay.
do.
Let's see what.
Minutes?
Minute. Yeah, I know.
It's only 3:15.
All right, let's try to get through some of this. The approval of the consent agenda. Now, if we don't have to separate these.
No.
So I just want to make sure there's no problem with the policy. This is a policy that we reviewed last board meeting, discussed it, asked questions. I think we even may have talked about it in the study session. So let's have a motion then to approve the consent agenda, which includes 3 different board meetings and approval of the final reading of policy 2.25, mandatory new student orientation.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion carries. Okay. So this seems like a good break before we go into the finances. Sorry if people thought they might get on before then. So let's have a motion to temporarily recess.
I move to recess until
6:30 or earlier if possible. What do you think? What are we looking at?
It's probably going to be closer to 6:45, but I think if you say till
Let's try
6:30 or
6:30,
2:30.
yeah. Okay. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're recessed. Now, can we, thank you all for waiting. Could I have a motion to bring us out of recess and back in?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion,
Aye.
aye. Motion carries. Okay, we're at financial reports. It's a good thing you don't have a big notebook for this table.
That's exactly right. Small notes for a small table. Wow, that's different. Good evening, Madam Chairman, Mr. President, members of the board. I am actually pleased to tell you that there is very little change from last month. All activities are nominal. There are no unusual activities that the board needs to be informed about. So I'll just run through the report very briefly and then open the floor for questions. I want to make sure, Donna, if I could, I've got the cash and banks report as E3. Is that correct? To make sure that we're in the same place? Yes. Yeah. That is correct? Okay. So, cash and bank operating funds at the end of April 30th, we're at $13.2 million. That's as expected. As I mentioned at last month's meeting, we expect total operating capital to grow to about $21 million by the time we receive the last part of our state allocation and the last part of our property tax allocations, our mill levy for the year. Bank of Albuquerque at $4.262 million is right on pace for the August 1st debt service payment. And as you can see, we're continuing to maintain the $1.2 million in reserve funds and LGIP that I think we've all agreed that our objective there is simply not to do anything with those funds.
That is in the New Mexico State Investment Pool account.
That's correct. That's right. I say LGIP, right? Local Government Investment Pool, which you're seeing correct, is New Mexico State Investment Pool, which are clean reserve funds that we can use for whatever contingency that we deem necessary. One thing you might note is that as of April 30th, 2014, we have at this point through our First National Bank account, I'll make sure before I say this that is correct. Yes, First National Bank as of April 30th, we have now recorded the 2 settlement amounts that we had set aside And those are fully covered in the budget at this point. So those are completed contingencies that we're at this point that we're finished with for accounting purposes. Restricted and unrestricted cash balance at the bottom. The most important observations there are that we're positive in regard to unrestricted cash balances by a few $100,000. Projected coverage for May is a little bit in the negative, and that it's because of the timing of the last appropriations receipts that we'll receive for the year. You'll see that reverse with the May report, because at that point we'll have other funds posted. So all this is to say, nothing unusual in the cash balances at all. If you look at E4, you can really see this month, if you watch the gray bars at E4, you can see where we are headed in our yearly cycle. Now what will happen is, if you notice the last two white and gray bars, that after this month, because of our year-end mill levy and our final state appropriations, we will wind up with about $6.5 million of operating capital to get us to the first appropriations of next year. Which is to say that, as we see with the cycle every year, it's a fairly deep trough over the summertime, and then we work toward October and November money. But I think it's reasonable. Randy and I have been meeting weekly since the last board meeting to look at fund balances and overall cash balances. And we're not flush in the sense of having a lot of cash availability on hand, but we are solid in the sense that we'll be able to pay our bills until we get into October, November appropriations, and I think from there we'll be okay. Let's see. E5 and E6, exactly the same phenomena that we have been reporting to the board throughout the year, really since December. And that is that if you look at E6, you are beginning to see the expense bubble finally close up that was open last fall, as we've talked about before. And on E5, you notice that the revenue line is now leveling out. One thing this report does not reflect, because it's as of April 30th, is that this does not show the new budget that was passed by the board yet. You won't see that until the May 31st report. But that'll have a great benefit on the revenue line in particular, and at that time you'll see those lines, revenue and expense, begin to converge more closely. Page E7, a couple of quick highlights I want to point out to you, because now that we're 83% through the year, those lines and real numbers can actually be seen very clearly on page E7. And let's look first at expenditures. And what you might notice down at the bottom, when we look at the fluctuation in expenditures as opposed to revenues, you notice that instruction, now we're comparing over on the right, we're comparing prior year at this point in the year to the current year at this point in the year. So April 30th of last year to April 30th of this year. And you notice that, just taking a general pass on this, instruction is up 2%. These are our expenditures. Academic support is up about 8%. Institutional support is up 6%. And then plant operation and maintenance also up about 8%. And so these are the changes. And by the way, when you look at the bottom of that list, in total expenditures, you notice at 83% of the year last year, we're at about 80%, as opposed to this year, they're at 83%. That 3% to us represents more than $1 million of change. So in some of the discussions we've had during board meetings last month, when Member Keith is asking questions about the effects of certain of these expenditures, so when you look at the bottom line, you see that one of the management issues that we're dealing with this year, this is about a net $1 million change, which is a large number for the institution to be absorbing and figuring out how we're going to budget that. And then you look up at local appropriations, and you notice that last year at this point we had collected 69% of our projected appropriations. This year we've collected 62%. A large portion of that is because of budget adjustments that were made in December, and again, you'll see that change when we go into the May 31st report, and you see the bar number 2 for the fiscal 14-year budget adjustment request number 2. you'll see a change there. You might note at the bottom of actuals for fiscal year 13-14, we have a pretty large negative number for ending fund balance. We added a note at the bottom of the report to make sure that the board understands what is happening. As we have discussed previously in prior years, we had about approximately $5 million budget reserve. That budget reserve does not exist in the same way now that it did 1 year ago. However, that negative $2.36 million has to be considered in light of the remaining state and local tax receipts that we have coming our way. We'll receive about $1.5 million in local appropriations that will include should include a fairly large piece of delinquent property taxes that we normally don't project in budget by the end of May. And then we very conservatively estimated $3 million, and honestly, it was a plug number. It's not even an estimate. It's very, very low, simply so that the board would understand that what will happen on the May report is you'll see that negative fund balance reverse once these receipts come in. So mainly with that negative number, the issue you see, it is not so much an operational concern for fiscal year 14. I believe that we'll in fiscal year 14, again, Randy and I, Mr. President and I are watching the fund balances week by week. We've actually worked with with Amy Tilley and Anita Rainey to develop a report specifically for this purpose on a weekly basis to make sure we have what we need. And I believe we'll end with a positive fund balance in ING at the end of the year, probably not as large as it was last year for reasons we have previously discussed.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Brian, tell me a little bit about the other sources on E7.
Other sources, member Cedillo, let me get back over there. And I flipped too soon. Let me get back there. We have because of the breadth of our activities, we have a number of small revenues, and they're a wide variety, and I can provide you with a list of those. They change from year to year. They're not always the same. Typically, we budget those at $300,000 simply as a relatively arbitrary number because historically the range has been between about $295 and about $325. And that's what the other sources are. They're revenues that really can't legitimately be recorded as anything else, so we treat it as another income item for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
And again, it's easy to send you detail on that, and you can look at several years, and it really is truly just a mishmash of small stuff, small things. But one good piece of news is it's a reliable mishmash. We seem to receive it every year, which is good. I want to point out to you with great trepidation that Madam Chairwoman is sitting directly in front of me after our discussion since October about Kids Campus. Mm-hmm. That at the beginning of May, Maggie Zinn went back and did a very detailed analysis of Kids Campus expenditures and revenues year to date. And we had been anticipating, based on Bob McWilliams' work and looking at the budget earlier this year, we had thought as early as January that while we were budgeted at a $238,000 subsidy, prior year was around $330,000. We thought that we would actually get that down to about 95 to 100, and the range that I had told you in January is 95 to 122. When Maggie went back and reanalyzed this, there were a number of costs, about $79,000 worth of costs, that were pushed through the Kids Campus, not so much the budget, but through the operating expenses during the semester. Some of them were personnel related for matters that the board is aware of. A few of these are issues that I believe we can actually ameliorate and move to different areas of the budget. One of them we already have. There was also, however, an issue in regard to the revenue projection where a calculation that should have been 20% of a revenue number was calculated as 80% of a revenue number, which resulted in about a $52,000 reversal. So what this means is that as we get to the end of the year, it looks like the subsidy to Kids Campus is probably going to be in the mid-170s, which is about $55,000 to $70,000 higher than I anticipated. We're still about $70,000 less than we budgeted, but we're certainly not close, not as close to this being below 100,000 as I hoped it would be. But I thought that the board needed to know that right away. And as I say, the one thing that may ameliorate that, and I'll work on this over the next few weeks, is that some of the expenses were related to administrative decisions that were necessary in the circumstances that might not necessarily be correctly attributable to the Kids Campus, and maybe should be located elsewhere in the budget. But that's the update on that. Any questions? Okay. I'm so sorry to report that to Chair Siegel. Okay, and then let's go on to E9. In general, campus culinary, bookstore, other auxiliaries, looking good at this point in the year. We still have the situation that we are a little bit upside down on East Wing Eatery, and again, a reminder, as we've talked about several times before, so I won't go into any detail. We're in the process of changing the nature of the East Wing Eatery budget altogether. So at this point, I think if we can get food service in the current format to the end of the year and have it be positive, I think that's a good achievement, and we'll work on East Wing Eatery going forward. E10, we're at about the same place, about $1.6 million in unrestricted plant reserve. And so that, in conjunction with the $1.2 million that we have in the local government investment pool, gives us about $2.7 million in reserve funds. And again, a key objective is to hold on to those as long as possible. Small amount of movement in grant receivables. That's pretty much our activity for the month of April.
Questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I know we've noted that we have income due from both the local and state sources for the rest of the year. And I know you've said that the financials will change for the month of May. So my question is, have we actually received those payments? And when do we expect? Do we expect to see them before the end of the month?
We have not. We expect to receive by the end of May. What should happen is we receive the next mill levy allocation. That's an important allocation because it should include a substantial chunk of our delinquent property tax receipts. Delinquent property tax receipts have actually been increasing over the last few years, and again, we don't budget for that increase. So one of the things I'm hoping will happen with that receipt is that we might be pleasantly surprised with a few $100,000 of additional delinquent receipts that we did not anticipate, which of course serves to ameliorate some of the concerns we talked about with the budget. And then the next large payment that we will receive, we also have state money that will come in that is not reflected here yet. And then the next large mill levy receipt is we are supposed to receive it by June 30th. Most years we accrue it on June 30th, which is one of the rare things we're allowed to accrue. And then we actually receive those funds in about the first 10 days of July. So fund balances, again, in a nutshell, what I believe will come down to are fund balances that are about $1.5 million positive, with about $21.5 million in the bank. That's, I think, where we're headed, net of the remaining payrolls for the year that we have to pay.
Is that it, Kathy?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Sort of on that issue. So if we accrue that $3 million expected in June, then that will leave us a positive fund balance.
That is correct.
Is there a way that we could have a comparison of fiscal year 12-13 to 13-14? And especially for E7 and 8 and 9?
Yes, certainly. For the next. For
For the next board meeting?
Yes,
Which would,
yes,
I think, really
yes.
help us see where we might be down in revenue, and, I mean, clearly in a comparison, and where we are up in expenses.
Yes.
We're seeing the percentages increase, but I think that would be very helpful.
Yes, I'd be glad to do it. And again, it helps in this context to make sure that this particular issue is very clear for the board, as we've talked about this before, but this is really important clarity. We compare, it's a simple matter to do a comparison a year end. But in that comparison, we'll be sure to present it, and I'll work with the president on this. We need to present it in such a way to make sure that the board can also clearly see what occurred in the 90 days following this comparison.
What do you mean?
Well, because the critical issue for our school year is that after we completed year end last year, changes were made to our financial structure.
Right, yeah.
And so what it would probably be most helpful, and we can run a draft, and again, I'll work with President Grissom on this, it would probably most helpful to see a direct comparison of the actual financials, and then to make sure the board can see it, and then here's what happened in August. So that you really are comparing, because the difficulty with the comparison is it's entirely possible to compare apples and apples with those year ends and not actually realize what occurred to us financially. For that, we need an additional piece of information. Easy to produce. I can already see the report in my head, but we'll work a draft up and we can do that.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
So, this delinquency that you don't know exactly what we're going to be getting, right? Probably till June, July?
The delinquent taxes, actually, we should have a pretty good idea in the next couple of weeks, because it'll be a part of a receipt. It's not paid to us as part of the larger payment. It comes in as a supplemental payment.
Is it monthly?
It comes in monthly, and so remember, Cedillo, so this is a fluctuating thing because it depends on collections in the county. And what I'm really watching very carefully, I've gone back and looked at a few years of this information, and it is actually over this last about 15 minutes, it's quite sharply up from what it was before. And so I believe we'll have some good news there. But of course, it's the nature of delinquent taxes. County collects as best they can, but the collections themselves countywide are up, and they're up in a couple of specific types of properties, which is a benefit to us. So,
Yeah.
On E8, the Small Business Development Center, so why is this budget so out of whack with the actuals? I know it's been this way. What's missing?
well,
I think all you've picked up is the SBA funds, not the state funds.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and it actually shouldn't be. I just didn't pick it up.
it
on
should be
review.
reflected.
It should be there, and I just did not pick it up on review.
Okay, all right. So that'll be.
That looks about right, because the
For
SBA
the-
is really small compared to the
Yeah,
state.
right,
But they also spend the state monies by June 30th,
right.
and because it's two fiscal
Because you have
years.
to. Okay, and the other is the federal fiscal year.
Actually, it's on the calendar year, the other one.
Oh, okay. Okay, and so you all are doing cash flow reviews periodically, is that correct,
Weekly.
Mr. President?
Yeah, we're looking at weekly, and in fact, we have I can't remember when it was, the president mentioned we're working on some drill down reports, but we actually have a new one this week for purposes of cash flow that I'm just starting to work with. That again, it's part of Amy Tilley's working with Anita Rainey, one of our SIG consultants, to come up with a tool that's more clear than what we have in Banner. And so the fund balances and the cash flows, I think, will be very helpful to us to be able to analyze more thoroughly.
And on E11, the grant receivables, do we make an extra effort to collect as much of that as possible before the end of the fiscal year? And if we don't, do we accrue it?
Well, we recognize the revenue when we bill them. So this
When
is
we
just
bill
so
them.
this is a receivable. So the revenue is
Oh,
booked when
so
we
we've
bill
already-
them. Right. So the revenue's there.
Even though they're
It's just the
grants.
cash isn't there. So
Yeah.
when it comes in, it's just we get cash and relieve
Okay.
receivables.
Okay.
And one of the things we will do in that regard, we're finishing up right now. We're preparing to file the March 31st quarterly financial statement, fiscal watch statement that normally, at least recently, it seems the board has not seen. But the president and I agree it'd be a really good report for the board to see, which we'll do next month once we get that cleaned up, because there you can really see the grant flow and see the institution as it is. This report gives the impression that we're a $35 million institution. We're not. It's actually around 53. Right. So it's above 50 when you include all the grants and all that activity. But you can see that in a different format that's more clear. And so we'll run that next month and tweak it and maybe boil that down to some form that the board is content
Yeah,
with.
so we can, I mean, we talked about this the last meeting, so that we can see what all the revenue is running through this college, because we're responsible for it, whether it's grant or
That's
other
right.
funding.
And ING is in effect only one of the orbits we are in. There are several others.
Madam Chair, just to let you know on E11 there, that $879,000 of total receivables has already been recognized as revenue whenever we sent the bill or the invoice to the funding entity. So now we're just waiting to get the cash.
So we're kind of on a cash accrual combo,
We're on definitely a cash accrual, yes.
but,
Got to match revenues and expenses.
yeah, well,
Yes.
We're a mixed bag as a public sector. not-
That's right. Government accounting standards have some rather
You're a little of both.
quasi-dash accounting approaches, and that's one of them.
okay. Anybody else have?
If you look at the audience, all the accountants are nodding their head.
Yeah, that's right. And these are not generally Chair Siegel. Generally, these are not really the kind of receivables that you can treat like a collectible where you do collection activity on it. Most of this is
Right,
handled
they're-
under contract, and the rules are very specific, and so we simply follow the rules.
They're mostly government.
All right, and I think our new finance committee is going to get more engaged, so we'll
Good.
talk about that later.
Welcome that.
Okay, so do we have a motion for approval of the financial report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, audit contract. Oh my God, is it that time again?
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. President, I'm here on behalf of management recommending approval of two items. The first is the fiscal 14 audit contract. We are in year 2 of a 3-year contract with Accounting Consulting Group. That contract was in fact approved by the state auditor today.
So what, Madam Chair, what we're asking for is approval of year 2's contract.
Year 2 of the same amount as last year,
It's
90,000.
the same amount as last year. Next year it'll go up by approximately 3.6%.
If you look at E17, you'll see the numbers.
Yeah.
E17.
E17.
Now, this is the firm that did the special audit too?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the firm that did the audit for the year ending last June 30th.
Special audit.
Still working on the special audit, and we have the 3-year contract with.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the audit contract.
Second. Is there any discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was easy. Okay, solar array,
Yes, so.
change order.
Yes, the second item is change order number 2 for the solar PV array project. And that change order is in the amount of $666,703 to take us from a Chinese-produced panels to an American-produced SunPower panels. And the technicalities of that go a little beyond me.
Yeah, why
This,
didn't we do
Madam
this
Chair, remind me,
before?
well, we should have done this a while back. We approved through the board going to the higher efficiency panel and going from 1 megawatt to 1.5 megawatt because of the total cost, but we never did the change order at that
So
point.
we've already paid for this.
Well, we haven't paid for it yet because they're really just starting, but
We've already said we would.
we always said, we signed a contract for this amount.
Yeah, we've signed a contract, and we've only made one payment to the general contractor so far.
So this is out of bond money?
That's correct.
Is this the one, where is this one?
Madam Chair, the original contract was for $3,420,000.
Uh-huh.
Then we had a small change order in June of $10,920.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at E31, you'll see this.
Is this, yeah, I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
Is this the solar array that we just put in?
No, this is the one we're just starting.
the one we're
The
starting
big
where?
1.5 here.
Ah, okay.
I think this actually include the solar panels at the.
Solar
This is
panels.
all three. This includes the demonstration array at the TATC, the 1.5 megawatt on campus, and the 170-ish kilowatts at the HEC.
Oh, so this is everything?
This is everything, because it's all coming out of the same bond.
This is everything,
Okay.
yeah. So in combination with the HEC project, which is $600,000, we'll be at $4,697,000 for the entire solar array project. And we had budgeted, the board had approved $5 million for that
Right,
entire project.
Yeah. So we're still under budget?
Yes.
Yes.
I move approval of change order number 2 for the solar project array.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're on to the SGA Constitution. Is that one of our handouts?
It is. Yeah, come on up.
That's a resolution.
Mr. Mickey had to go, but we have Dr. Gonzalez and Janet Berry, and I can provide some insight. And then we're going to have a suggested amendment.
And where's that amendment?
I have it.
Martha's got it.
Oh. Nobody else has it?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. We can just read it when we get there.
Madam Chair, what you have online is, the first thing is the red line version.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see what was changed from the last version of the Student Government Constitution, and then after it is the final version with all the changes accepted.
Okay.
So E34 through 47 are the red line version.
All right, do y'all want to tell us, summarize for us?
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm going to have Janet oversees the student government, and I'm going to have her tell you about the process.
Okay.
And then we have some amendments that we want to see.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared to be doing this tonight. So,
You'll be fine.
Student government we knew we had to change the Constitution because the last time that happened, I believe, was 2008. I don't have the old one with me. So student government met as a group and decided what kind of changes they thought they might want to make. And within the last few meetings of student government, I don't have the exact dates, but within the last few meetings, they brought this forward to the House of Representatives, which is the student body that attends student government meetings. So they created the red line version with the suggestions that they wanted to put in there. And we Ken put that up, thank you, Ken, on Jack, the red line version and the original version. And then they voted to accept the red line version, not the virgin, but the version. Sorry. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
There's food in there.
It's all right. Anyway, I'll go home after this. So they approved the red line version, making some amendments, and I hadn't seen the amendment till now, but that's the amendment that where the governing board is going to oversees the budget, and there's an amendment that's proposed amending that amendment.
We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Oh, okay. So
Let me just, because I've read this so many times, I think I may have it memorized. Most of the changes, except for Section 11, are really cleanup. They fixed the values, the mission statement, and the vision to match what we've adopted in the past year. A lot of the changes relate to changes in the organization, titles, positions, schools, and so forth. And in some cases, they actually cleaned up and better defined who can vote in which group and how. So really, the only really major change is that they did add Section 11, which talks about the budget. So that's on pages E45 and E46. And we do have at least one amendment from our recommended from the college's legal counsel. That we add a sentence to Section 2 under Article 11.
And Madam Chair and members of the board, one of the things that has happened this past year is one student has complained about the Open Meetings Act and that the students were violating the Open Meetings Act. And I checked with a former student body president at my former institution, and they didn't go by the Open Meetings Act. But the reason they didn't was because the Board of Regents, which the board here, approved their budget. So that was in an open meeting. So we want to kind of get that in this Constitution, so.
So that's what the amendment is? Do you want to read it?
Yeah. The SGA president presents the approved budget to the Santa Fe Community College Governing Board for final approval. And this is the new part. The SFCC Governing Board has authority to approve, reject, or modify the Student Government Association budget.
That sentence came from our attorneys.
Okay.
And there's one other area, and I don't have the same pages that you do, but Article 3, organizational powers. There's a Section 4.
Yeah.
And it says, oh, is this what you just?
No.
No, that
Okay.
was Section 11.
Okay, SGA oversees all funds collected by Student Government Association fees, so I think there's
That
a,
should be deleted.
yeah,
Say that again? Oh, that's Section
what?
E35, Section 4.
oversees all funds collected.
it's a conflict with the
We just,
amendment, so we would just,
So that needs to be stricken.
Right.
okay. Now, how does SGA feel about these changes? Do we know?
I don't know, we haven't had a chance to really talk to them. I talked to Sean a little bit. They may have a problem with taking Section 4 out. I don't know they're going to have a problem with adding the sentence to the other section, but I do feel that there is a conflict there.
What if we change Section 4 to say that SGA will receive a monthly report of all funds collected and expended or something like that, so that they see where their money's going, but they just don't
So the
oversee it, or
the conflict is with the word overseas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what?
so I'm suggesting that we say something like they receive monthly reports of all income and
monitor?
expenditures to monitor.
They can monitor.
I think all you have to do is change overseas to monitor. SGA monitors all funds collected by the SGA Association.
Madam Chair, let me talk to you about another issue that the next item on the agenda was to
Is the
approve their
budget.
budget,
Yeah.
but we're going to ask you to table it.
Okay.
And the reason for that, and I'll go into more detail later, maybe even in the work session for June, is that the new student the students that went to student government drastically changed the way we did the budget. And they took a lot of money away that used to go to the student activities office to do the programs that the student activity office does, and well, basically reduce that. So if we're going to keep doing those things, the college would have to come up with the funds somewhere. And so I think one of the things we need to look at is how we titled. We changed a number of years ago the fee from a student activities fee to a student government association fee, and we need to decide if we need to change that title legally so that we can use some of those monies if the students don't want to for student activities that the college wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's just a discussion we're going to have to take.
We need to discuss
So when you
that.
say they took the money away, there was money that was collected from the fees that they didn't want to use, or there wasn't?
So let me just give you an example here. In FY13 budget, out of a total of $98,000 that was budgeted, $30,500 went to the student activities that's managed by the college. In FY14, out of a $95,000 budget, it was that same $30,500 figure. The proposed budget for next year, they want to reduce it to $22,750, but of that $22,750, they're saying $10,000 of it has to go to student conferences.
Where?
So student conferences. So they're really basically reducing what the college had to spend on student activities from $30,000 to $12,000.
And the activities, the things they do, benefit all the students, and they, the Halloween, Fall Fest, Spring Fling, is that what it's called?
Welcome.
Lots of different things that are funded through the Student Activities Office that benefit students. And so I don't know how we need to fund that office in order for it to operate.
Can I say
Sure.
something? And regarding the conferences, we have those conferences every year. Ernest Kavanaugh, the ambassadors, put those on. And, well, I've only been in this position a year and a half, but they can request money from student government, which any students can if they feel, there's a viable program or conference. So they have been getting money from student government. I think it was $2,500 for each conference, for the leadership conference and the women's conference. So they always have that capability. But the students that did vote this budget, and it was a tight vote. And I also believe, if I can say, that they didn't do their research because they didn't realize they were cutting the men's program, the game program. They cut from $1,200 down to $500. We supply money to make copies of the literary review, which is all our students who send in, pieces of their work to have those copied. So we help with that. GED graduation. Actually, our exec board was really nice, giving GED $600 so they could help pay for food. So the exec officers group paid $600 for the GED graduation tonight. But so there's been availability for those conferences, but it's hard to explain.
But
It's
it hasn't come out of.
It used to come out of funds they left for allocating.
right from student government funds.
This year, they've
Took it out of our
designated to come out
budget.
of student activities instead of the other.
So our Halloween budget's gone from, I believe, I'm going again. I wasn't prepared. Sorry. I
4,000
think
to what?
4,000 to 22,000 or 2,500. I think, wasn't it?
Last time I saw it.
1,000. Okay. So.
Yeah.
The budget we're going to table. Yeah. well, I'm
But
recommending
can, well, I hear Martha suggesting monitors all funds collected.
And I don't have a problem.
Or, yes.
Can I ask a question? So, in terms of timing, is there an immediate purpose why we would need to approve this tonight? Because I sure would feel more confident after we had met with the students or could engage with them over this. I just feel we're a little bit blind making this decision tonight.
We're having our SGA retreat tomorrow with the outgoing and the incoming officers, and like Sean said, they're finished by the beginning of the summer semester. The new group starts. I personally don't see why not do it, the right way, then rush into it.
SGA does not really meet again until August.
No, they won't meet again until August. But well, I don't know.
And
I don't know.
I'm not sure how this was all changed, but it was changed under some CFO, right? About 6 years ago, where
The title of the fee was changed, yes.
Chris, do you have some comment on
I
that?
do, Janet, I used to have your position.
Right.
And I felt back then that it just, there was no clear assignment of what thing, and I really felt that there was some monies and some in the things in the budget, student activities, that should not be approved or disapproved through SGA, that they were directly in your department, and it was, it was something there, and I think something like that should really be looked at, and looked at very strongly, and because there's just once again, there's things that on a 1-year basis, student government people are, I'm sorry, and I don't mean it as a negative thing towards student government, but there are certain things that they can work with, the clubs and the different things, but there's other things that are still under student activities, but that should just work through you guys as administrators, not through student government. And I feel very strongly about that, because that was a huge problem for me when I was in there and working with conferences and things like that. It was just, it was frustrating, and I was in there when the changes were made, and it didn't feel good, and I felt it's never been clear. And so if we can do something like that, that would be so good, because it would give the responsibilities where they should be. Student government dealing with things that they should, but yet the coordinator, the vice president, you guys would deal with the things that are important to you. And I think to me that's.
So, Madam Chair and members of the board, the ideal thing would be to set aside the student activities funds, 30K or whatever it is that we decide, and then the rest is for the student government to use and allocate and.
For clubs and
Yeah.
But right
fund
now,
requests.
we've allocated it all to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, their request.
Yes, we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
No, but that's been the case for that's how it's been, and it hasn't been, I don't think the budget has been brought forward to you to approve in the past, or in the past few years anyway.
But Madam Chair, until this year, they have been funding student activities at the level that we expected it to be funded at. So, one of the concerns is if we don't approve them a budget, they can't spend any money come July 1st. And, they do spend some dollars over the summer, not a whole lot, because the officers get a little bit, they get stipends. I don't know if that starts July 1 or not. But we could allocate them at least some money for them. But I personally don't see that there's any reason why we can't hold off on the Constitution until they come back.
The Constitution, to hold off on the Constitution and then approve the budget in June, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, but my only concern about holding off on the Constitution is we need this wording, otherwise they have to go by the Open Meetings Act, according to our attorney.
We need what?
The wording that we want to amend in.
Or they're supposed to be following the Open Meetings Act.
I mean, one option would be to approve the Constitution with the changes we're recommending, and then if they convince us to do something different, we could always
Amend it. Pablo Johnson.
Yeah, I just, this is really a very important document that I'd like to be very fair with the students and certainly exercise our responsibilities as a board. And I certainly don't want to impede the progress of what's needed, but I don't feel that I have enough time to really review this at this point. I think section number 4 clearly states oversees all funds connected by the Student Government Association fees. I'm not so sure that that's proper or legal.
Well, that's what we were talking about changing.
Right.
Striking.
Also
And then after striking, then we thought, well, the modified position would be to say it monitors rather than oversees.
Oh, yeah.
Madam Chair, I too, I'm going to echo Board Member Cedillo's position. I think that I'm uncomfortable taking action on either of these items, the budget or the Constitution, without us engaging and listening to what the student body has to say. I don't think that we would have anything that affected the faculty or staffs in it. We give them the respect of having an exchange with them before they would bring something that's major in front of us. And I don't think we've shown the students the same respect and understanding better where they're coming from. I would propose that maybe if we have a work session in June, that we would invite a representative from student government to come to the work session in June and have a conversation with us. I realize we've got some students who aren't on campus, but we're not asking for them to return for all 3 months of the summer. We're asking them to return for, a meeting.
Maybe we could even get several, I think. I'm surprised there's not a couple here to tell the truth.
Both Alex and Sean, the two most current student body presidents, are for these changes, just for the record.
Right.
So, another question to you, Randy. If we hold off doing anything, and we put it on the June agenda, that does not impede their ability to do anything.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I think we could wait certainly till June on this, and even if we can't come to some kind of firm decision in June, we could approve a small budget for them that would take them from July 1st through August, because they don't spend much money in the summertime. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm ready to propose that we table the Constitution and the budget, and we invite and have a work session in June. Invite the participants, and then we can decide with a more informed. I think that's. I feel much more comfortable than doing that than having just to do partial. Then trying to undo this again.
Right. Carmen, do you want to?
Oh, I just want to say, I don't think that the students really, I don't even know that they'll have a cogent argument for why we should do this or not do this, because it's a whole new group, and, they won't really know. But I think it is good to engage with the students and say this is why we're needing to do this, because of the Open Meetings Act. I mean, they need to be made aware of that too.
Okay,
you wanted to add, she wanted to add something.
Well, I was just going to say we are going to have a small retreat, most likely in town. Well, yes, but with the new group, which we would need a small budget for. But we'll worry about that I don't know when that's happening exactly, either July or August.
Well, we can make sure there's.
We'll
yeah.
have it
If
something.
we don't reach agreement before then. So can you go ahead? We do have a motion. I'll take a second in a second. But do you have? You have a meeting with them tomorrow?
We're having a retreat where with the incoming and the outgoing, and they train each other. It's kind of closing, reflecting, tie up some loose ends, other than the two big loose ends.
Yeah.
We won't be
If we
tying those
table
up.
this, you can tell them that we want to talk to them.
Yes.
Before we vote on it. Do we have a second?
I would second.
Is there any other discussion, comments? All those in favor of tabling this one and the SGA budget? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and President Grissom.
Okay, now we have our open meetings resolution. I need to find it.
Do we do this every year?
We do it every year. By law, we're required to do it.
Okay.
Crap.
Yeah, mine went away too.
To double check it, it does say on the third Tuesday of each month unless otherwise determined by the Santa Fe Community College Board.
Okay. And here again, we have at least quarterly. Of course, we meet monthly.
No, it says monthly.
Wait, I'm on the wrong one.
Should be on page E66.
E66.
Yeah.
You probably opened the one from the.
Yeah.
Third Tuesday unless otherwise determined.
the third Tuesday.
Prior.
Otherwise, it's just like our past one.
Yes.
And this includes the new legislation that was new, what,
Which
last year?
requires this doesn't have anything to do with our notice has to be the 72 hours. That's the new one, right?
Well, no, it says the
That's in here, right?
Right, yeah.
days prior.
Yeah.
3 days, right?
That's on the bottom, number 2.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the new law.
Would you say that for me again? Which is the bottom of the new law?
Number, on page E66 and number 2, the next to last sentence is the 72-hour requirement.
For the agenda,
Okay.
because before it was only 24
24
hours.
right.
Transparency.
The
Okay.
agenda does not require anything other than a title?
Yes.
No accompanying documents?
Just the topic you're going to talk about. Okay, how about a motion to approve this Open Meetings Act resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes?
Part of the problem with that for me is that when you publish an agenda with no accompanying documents, no summary of what the issue is or what's going to be discussed, that for me creates a lack of transparency. In that, I mean, the rationale for the publishing of the agenda is that if anyone in the public wants to come and address the board about that topic, they may. They have enough notice to plan to do that. But I don't know that just a title of the agenda would give anybody enough information to say, I want to go and find out some more about this. I want to know and address the board. I care about this issue. It just seems to me that it lacks transparency.
Isn't
Madam
our
Chair.
board packet on the web?
But not in 72 hours necessarily.
Not everything is there in 72.
Not everything is there. Ken,
What is that? What?
Where exactly does it reside? It resides.
It resides on the web. I mean,
On the public web?
on the public web. There are no links directly to it, but it is there.
See?
So, I mean, this is our legal document. We could pass this as it is because it meets the requirements of the law, and then have our own policy that we will have it posted on the
Madam
web
Chair.
in an identifiable place. And yes,
I just find it inconceivable that this board would publish an agenda without any content. I think we would have to publish something before we come to this board.
every board. I mean, it's not necessarily right, but the city, the county, everybody meets the requirement of the Open Meetings Act to publish an agenda with the topic.
Right.
Now, if we want to go beyond that, then that's something we could do in policy.
But the other boards do have at least little vignettes that say, this is what's going to be discussed. This is the issue.
Not in the newspaper.
Yeah.
No, you get.
Just the listed agenda.
You just-
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do have the proposed agenda item. That is always there. So what you don't always have 72 hours ahead of time is the financial statements necessarily, which we want to rectify that. Maybe some of the other documents that go along with it. So we do at least have more than just the title of the agenda item. You got to remember the main thing with the open meetings law is to make sure that you don't discuss and vote on anything that was not at least noticed that you're going to talk about it.
Well,
And so you can't vote on anything that's not on the agenda.
the conflict for me is in the definition of the word notice. You can notice a title that tells you, Joe Public, absolutely nothing. And That doesn't give me any information about what it is that I want to come and listen to. And the financials are a good example, but so are some of the other things. When we put together a policy change, when we put together any kind of a discussion about a new program or whatever, if you don't have something that tells the public that this is what the discussion is going to be about, then it seems to me that we may be obeying the letter of the law, but we are not obeying the spirit of the law.
Comments? Chris?
Well, I think that, to me, it seems excessive to publish it, but I would see that maybe we could somehow do something that's added to the title or something, if we wanted something like that. I think that if somebody were interested in a topic and we have access to it through either coming to pick up a copy at Donna's office or through email, through the internet, I think that's sufficient enough. If we feel that maybe our titles are not explaining the issue, maybe we need to explain them a little bit in a brief statement or something. But I don't feel that we need a lot when we publish it. When we do the agenda. I think it's too much. But
Madam Chair, but the other side of that is that if people could come when in 72 hours or a week or whatever it is that we were requiring to Donna's office and get the full range of materials, that's one thing. But at the present time, I don't think that's possible. Is it, Donna?
No, but it's what I'm asking Ken is access to the board packet, if that can be made more public. Right now, they have to go to a certain address to be able to go into the link to access. And I'm wondering if perhaps
that should be made more
It
public.
could be on the
we should
public part.
we should be able to click on the agenda and see the
Well,
complete.
if that were on the, I would feel much more comfortable if that were on the agenda, the published agenda, if there was a note that said to see the full content of the items on the agenda, go here.
Right.
But my question still remains is it available in 72 hours before?
Yeah, I mean, I try to send
'Cause we
the board
get it,
packet
yeah.
to you at least a week in advance. And so once I send it to you, then it's available. And it's just a matter of creating the link, or, Ken could best explain that. But then it would be a matter of making that more publicly available. But it is the package is available more than 72 hours in advance. Usually, I mean, there may be some last-minute financial reports or things like that, but generally the information is available more than 72 hours in advance. And then also people, if people are following an issue, the minutes are, public. They're made public, and they're on, our website, and they're also going to the library. They're being posted there. So I mean, if people are following,
That is after the fact.
That is after the
That
fact.
is
You're
not.
right.
I can't come and talk to us
Right.
about it when we're really making the decisions, unless I have access to that. And if we can make that link available, I think that would probably satisfy my concern.
Janet has.
We do publish that in our advertisement in the newspaper, where to go.
It is, the link is there.
Specific.
But is it an easy go on, you appear on the community college website and it goes board packet, so you just click on it? It's probably not that easy.
The address that we publish.
See?
You go to the main site, you click on
The browser.
governing board, and you do have to scroll down a ways to see all the meetings. And I'm not remembering exactly what time it gets hot, but I think it is well.
As soon as Donna's finished with it and has all the material, she sends it to me and I put it up within 24 hours. Usually, honestly, about within 6 hours, and then it's ready. It's ready at that time.
So we publish it 2 places in the newspaper, where to go to get, and we publish a little blurb about how to get there.
So if you're not terribly literate, you can figure it out.
Let's try it. Let's find it and try it.
So, Madam Chair, President Grissom, could you explain to me what the process is of preparing an agenda? Who does that?
It flows through my office, so it's
Okay.
my responsibility for working with Donna and working with the chair
Okay.
to make sure items are on the agenda. And so we fill out one of these forms. You'll see there's a proposed agenda item that we fill out for almost every item that's on the agenda. There is usually a recommendation and a background in there. I have seen some lately where there's not as much as we could. And then behind that is any detail that we have for that, which is what you scroll through.
So that's content, right?
That's content.
But what I would like to do is something we've done in the past, where then we have that agenda in advance enough that it goes out to all the board members, and if you all have some pressing issue that we need to get on the agenda, you want on the agenda, then we add it.
Right.
So that
But I
everybody
presume-
has input.
Yeah, I presume that each board member has the right to
Absolutely.
submit agenda items.
And if it doesn't work for a meeting, then we say, okay, we'll put it on
Exactly.
this meeting.
And so that we have public comment and we have items on the agenda, and someone from the public can comment on something that may be on our agenda, right?
They can, yes, in public.
Right. The only time they cannot engage is when the board is deliberating.
Right.
So, I mean, at least there's some safeguards that the public can in fact access or ask questions about a particular item. Like, are we going to change the whole configuration of the roads, and we could have 3 or 4 entrances? You know, those kinds of things are important to the public.
But if they're going to discuss them, if they're going to come to discuss them, they can't discuss them in the public comment area, because then we cannot engage them.
Right.
We have to wait until, we can say, we're going to be discussing this as
Right.
item number E15 or whatever.
And that's
And
because.
then you can wait and talk, and then we can talk to you.
Yeah. But that's because if somebody brings up something and it hasn't been noticed, so we can't engage with it.
Exactly.
We can just say, okay, well, that's a good idea, let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting. and then-
Exactly.
Or have, like we're doing in June, having people who want to talk about the road come to our study session. Okay, it seems like this is a requirement of law. If we pass this Open Meetings Act and then we implement a more accessible, if we feel like our current process isn't accessible for people, then we can do that ourselves in the direction.
So Madam Chair, as the interim president, first of all, I'm encouraging you've got to pass the open meetings
Yes, we have
resolution.
to, yeah.
And then I will give you my commitment that we will try to get everything posted and available 72 hours in advance. I know we're already going to try to get some of those things even more than 72 hours in
Well, 'cause
advance.
we need them.
And then we'll look at where it might fit in a policy if we think it has to be put in
Right.
policy.
Good enough for me.
And it might have to be a policy, because if the next board goes, we don't care when the public gets it, it'll be there.
So I move that we approve the open meetings law, and that we strongly recommend that the links to the material be as accessible as possible.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, we have some information items. Do you want to say anything about any of these? Do we have any questions?
Madam Chair, there's copies of each of those in your packet. So the main things, if you want any of these to be discussed in here, we've got folks here prepared to do so. if you've looked at those and you're fine with what it says, we can just go with the written report.
I think it would be really useful to hear. I think we need to get more involved with the foundation.
Yes.
And I think one of the ways that we can certainly get more involved with the foundation is to have, rather than simply sending us reports, I think we always benefit from some conversation about it.
So Deborah, come on up.
Good evening, Madam Chair, governing board members, President Grissom. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this report. This is a 9-month report of the foundation. And during this 9-month period, the estimated total revenue amount of gifts and investment income was $714,273, which is a decrease of $196,000 from the previous fiscal year. But we are expecting to receive more gifts before the end of the year, one from lands. We've also received some more scholarship funds since we reported on this 9-month period. So, based on the prior year, we're down, but based on the 11-12 year, we're more than double. So it's good that you always see a 3-year comparison. We've also raised in this year our matching obligations to the Title V program, which was $60,000 matching, and to the Contract for Better Tomorrow program, $50,000. Next year, that amount goes up for Title V to $120,000. And we get a very good response on our appeal for raising matching monies. It incentivized people to give. We had 4 times the amount that we had from the previous year's appeal. So that we will continue to do, and we're certain that we'll match the $120,000 for 14-15. We also, our investment income was approximately $504,000 in dividends and gains, which is also a decrease from the previous year, which was a banner year. So you see the comparison in the chart below of the 3 years, and 12-13 was a very good year in the market. But one of the things is that our unrestricted is low. And also our expenses for unrestricted is very low. So if you look down in the expense report, total expenses for the first 9 months, were a little over $128,000. They decreased by $62,000 from the prior year. And we've really reined in our unrestricted expenses. That's the good news. But the bad news is that we don't have as much unrestricted expenses, which we've used to help the college wherever we can. So we've matched student club accounts. We've provided cash awards for the student writers, the writing awards. We also didn't have any events. And it wasn't by our plan. The board had planned to do several small cultivation events for donors, but the previous president had wanted to do a big gala, and so we didn't do an event. And we're hoping to catch up in 14-15 and increase our unrestricted. We're always looking to increase that amount because it's from that amount that we do the matching monies. And we're also available to support student activities and special needs of the college. We have received the priorities of the president and the college, and we are going to be working very hard to meet those. The 2 matching obligations are 1 and 2 on the list of priorities, and then raising funds for professional development is number 3. And so we're really going to be working on that because it will help tremendously. That can be a fund. So on our scholarships, for our the goal of 30 new scholarships for the 30th anniversary. As of this writing, we were at 24 to date. We just got another one Monday, which was really the result, and thanks to President Grissom and Janet Wise and Henry Mignardo, that the TV production company that's producing Longmire has rented the HEC because they needed a construction site, and thanks to their leadership, that the money from that, the revenue stream, will go to a matching Title V endowment scholarship. So that's wonderful. It's going to be the Horizon Television Endowed Title V scholarship, something to that effect. And we have 2 others in the pipeline, so we're very certain we'll meet our 30 new scholarships for the 30th anniversary.
By June 30th, you have to have those?
We're shooting for June 30th, but I'm told that the actual 30th year ends in the end of July, so it's kind of a moving target, but we're shooting for June 30th. A good bit of time has been spent on the assessment that we contracted with the Huddleston Group to conduct a program planning and philanthropy assessment that really was taking a very comprehensive look at all of our fundraising capacity for the foundation. The purpose was to, determine our strengths and weaknesses, and also to look at the donors and donor prospects. And I gave some details in this that how that happened. We have received the assessment, the 55-page assessment. You'll all receive a copy of it. Yes, sir.
30 pages.
Okay, there's a very big addendum attached to that.
Can you email that to us, or is that too big?
We've ordered a printed copy for you. So, of course, I'll email it to you as well. But some people with a document that big would like to read it.
We're going to want to.
It's dense. It's got a lot of information in it. And we're having a retreat on June 12th and 13th to really, with Ron Huddleston, to roll this out and to really see where we need to move to.
Which all the board members were invited to, but I know I can't attend. Kathy, are you gonna? You're gonna attend? You can't?
Oh, wonderful.
And Pablo is? Chris? Okay. So Kathy and Pablo will be there? Okay, great. I'm
Great.
sorry that the rest of us can't be there.
You could always read the report, and we will certainly bring you up to speed. We will document that meeting, and there'll be.
13th?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be.
The 12th, I can't do the 13th.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be lovely. That'll be a dinner meeting, and just kind of Ron will give an overview, and then the 13th is when we really start working on it.
The other thing, having been the representative to the foundation, is I think it's really useful for us to think right from now about the fact that it's really important, if we want other donors to be excited about contributing. I think the board has to really be willing to contribute itself. Whatever, I mean, and the amount is not as important as the fact that 100% of the board provides funds to the foundation.
Thank you. That's one of the basic tenets of fundraising, and we're very grateful for the support from this body. We've also have 100% giving rate of the foundation board, which is really great.
Well, and it seems we probably need to have another joint meeting to really.
Perhaps when you get an event outlined or something.
Well, that's a good suggestion, and November is usually when we have those joint meetings, but we're really flexible.
Well, let's start planning on that.
Madam Chair, in the past, we've had the joint meeting either in October or November. It's been
Okay. Great. And so maybe it would be useful to have a report. I don't know if every month is necessary. Every other month.
Not every month.
Every other month, or.
But
I think quarterly is not enough.
Quarterly, right?
I don't know. I think that's
You
not
think that's not
enough.
enough?
Maybe every other month, so we can really stay on top of, so that we can know what these numbers are and know where we might help.
I'm happy to provide that report at your pleasure.
So right now, we'll do it every other month.
Is that okay? Okay. And Pablo is now going to be the primary member of the GROW board, and Martha will be the alternate.
But it's not GROW anymore.
I'm sorry, I forgot Santa Fe Community College Foundation.
Thank you very much.
From the old, whatever.
Thank you
Okay,
for the appointment, Madam Chair. I'm going to try and be as active as I can with the foundation, and instead of having the report every other month, we should do that. But hopefully that I can attend. Are your meetings monthly?
Every other month.
Every other month. Okay, that's fine. Well, then maybe I can also, besides the written report, give you my own perspective
Well,
of the
and
board.
not just a written report, I think we would like you to talk about it
Sure.
in case we have questions and all. And then
And just
you'll have so many
I'll check her out.
I'd be pleased to do so.
And who are your officers now?
Rick Abels serves as the president.
He was re-elected president?
Well, that will be in October.
Oh, in October.
Rosemary Mulcahy is the vice president. Jeff Case is the treasurer, but his term is ending in October. And secretary is Dr. Gonzalez. Yes. And we also have a new committee of the board, which is the Leadership and Board Development Committee. They're having their first meeting tomorrow, and Carol Brito's the chair. So that will
Get you into process.
indeed. We're also really, looking at the board, how it's currently comprised, and identifying people in the community that will be able to bring resources to us and reflect the community.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else on the written reports we would like to, should we have a brief strategic planning, AQUIP? Come on up.
I'm just looking at the AQUIP project and
Yes.
on adjunct orientation. Just maybe a sentence or two about
Yeah.
it. Where is it?
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. President. Just to give a quick update, and if you have any questions of any of the other items, I'm happy to report. We have just scheduled our first meeting for the AQUIP Action Project for the adjunct faculty members. The goal is to design a adjunct orientation that will be very helpful for the adjunct faculty members. As the president has said, commented on a number of times, the adjunct faculty member is a very important constituent group of the college. And so we have, where both Dr. MacArthur and two adjunct faculty members will be working over the summer times to develop a orientation. And so what they're going to be doing is they're going to have a first pilot for this fall, and then there will be an evaluation as true with their plan, do, check, act process. And then we'll do it again. There'll be some adjustment happening throughout the fall semester and re-implementation in the spring.
In the spring.
Right, based on the feedback we receive in the fall. So our first pilot will be in the fall, and then we want to evaluate if it wasn't effective and what other changes we need to make, part of the continuous quality
And then
improvement.
we would have a solid orientation plan for the adjunct by the spring.
That's the hope, yes.
And Madam Chair, just want to let you know too, once we get this done, we're looking at doing an online version for those adjunct faculty who can't always attend the in-person meeting. So we're going to try to come up with the in-person version first, and then see if we can adapt it to an online version.
Great. And anything on strategic plan?
There was a very good feedback sessions across the campus. I've met with actually all the board members as well, one-on-one interviews, feedback about what they thought about the strategic planning process. There are some things that was really good, and there are some things that we need to really improve. The good things include people in general felt that the college was very committed on having a real strategic planning process, not one of those put it on the shelf, forget about it for 5 years and come back. They also felt very positive about the level of involvement they had in the process. They really felt part of it. I think the area that we need to sort of improve upon is how complex we made it. We made it so complex to the point that we're getting close to the point where the tail was wagging the dog. So the intention for the next year really is to streamline the process. So it's actually more of a useful process rather than more of an activity that's burdensome for the different parts of the college. And so there will be a additional report in August to the board relating to how was the year one implementation, but most of the evaluation really focused on how do we plan for the plan, so to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? Comments, questions?
How does the strategic plan get to an implementation plan? And who reports on that and to whom?
So the implementation plan, currently there's 4 long-term goals, and various leadership entity across the campus leads those 4 goals. And those leads are responsible for organizing the implementation plan. They call it the strategic charters. One of the challenges for the year one was the change, various changes that was happening across campus, as well as the number of wide variety of strategies that was proposed and tried to implement. When you try to do too many things, it's difficult to do all of them very well. So, I think our hope for the next year, the year 2 implementation, is really drill down and focus on what we think has the most biggest return on our time invested.
And who's the we?
Currently, the strategic planning activity is led by myself and our new planning and quality officer, Julie Gallegos. She will be leading the process for the next year, and I'll be providing support and guidance.
And then do you also do the evaluations of how well those activities got, and where do they get reported? Do we ever see those?
Yes. So this is part of the evaluation process. I have a lot longer version of the evaluation, which we'll be happy to send, about the pros and cons of every single aspect that was evaluated. So 14 different items was evaluated, including internal stakeholder input, external stakeholder input, board involvement process, communication, environmental scan, mission, vision, values, long-term and short-term goals development, KPI developments. And so I understand the times.
I'm not as concerned about those as I am about when somebody actually says they're going to do something. And then does it get done? And then do we know if it gets done? Do we know what the issues were that made it not get done? How can we help?
Madam Chair and Member Romero, we have leads for each of the charters. Mm-hmm. And so they're responsible for seeing those activities are done. And then we have KPIs that we're still looking at, because we've got some that are like too hard to collect. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to thin those down a little bit. But we've developed, and we do have a chart, and you may want to send that to us again. We do have a chart that lists when these are reported on. Some are monthly, some are by semester, some are by academic year. And so Yash and his team help to make sure we do those, because all the data has to really come through them. And so that's how we're going to try to keep up with it. But there is a lead for each of the charter, as well as a lead for each of the 4 long-term goals or objectives goals.
And one of the things that you and I talked about when we met was about how that people are doing their own action steps and following through, and then that's getting reported back to whoever the lead is or whatever they're called. And I don't know exactly how we get that reported back to us, but there should be real outcomes from people doing their individual action steps.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that's one of the things I'm hoping to include in our our annual update in August, regarding how successful or unsuccessful some of the strategies were. So thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Carmen, any quick comments about our increasing head count?
The newest ones.
Oh, we have even more.
We have, we get a report every Wednesday. So the report that you have probably in your board book is from last Wednesday, so it's changed from then. So when I give this report, I give the up to the minute report. Okay? So for spring, we did really well in spring. We had an increase in head count by 4.3%, FTE 3.6%, credit hours 3.6%, and courses, of course, are quite large. That's because there's internships, there's independent studies, there's all kinds of things in there.
So that's not because we have 3 people in a classroom?
No. No, and
There could be 3 people in a small class that's like an internship class.
Yeah.
To do that. We also have all these 1-credit classes that we didn't used to have, and we're growing because that student success class, first-year success class, is getting to be more popular, so we have more sections of those every year.
it's now mandatory.
So it doesn't increase the number of credit hours as much as it does the number of courses,
Okay.
percentage-wise.
Okay.
So for some,
You all are keeping track of that so that we're not having too many classes of...
yes, we're keeping track of that, and I think that was something that Randy dealt with a lot when he was in the vice president position. Now it's Margaret. But from what I understand, it is a lot of those independent and, 1 or 2 people in a class kind of thing, but not a small class. So, okay. And for summer, we're down just a little bit, but we still have some courses that will be offered in 4-week courses. We're in our 5th week of registration for summer. But we're not down that bad, and we're up in FTE by quite a bit, in credit hours. So, yeah, that's looking good.
We still have 2 more weeks before summer school starts.
Mhm. And then fall, it's just the 4th week of registration, and we have, till fall semester, and then even in fall semester, we have short courses that start in the middle of the semester, so this will change quite a bit. It doesn't look too good right now, but it will change.
Okay, any comments, questions?
Only that I continue to want to press for retention and dropouts.
And Yash and I talked about that, so at some point soon we'll have that report for you.
Of how, we have that data now, it's just how to pull it together?
Yay.
Madam Chair, as a member of the board, you say data and it brings a smile to my face, of course. I've talked with President Grissom, and my office is currently working on a report. We do have that information. And so I've actually seen a draft report, but it's not ready to be released until we want to make sure it's actually accurate before we release to everybody else. So right now we're going through a testing phase to make sure that the data is accurate, and I'll be working with Carmen's area to make sure that everything is actually set up correctly before we present it to the board member.
So that might be June or July? July, maybe?
The hope is next month, June.
Okay.
So as a starting place, it'll be term to term, or will it be interterm?
We're actually looking at the withdrawal for week by week and month to month. And so we're currently looking at a number of different scenarios. One of them we're looking at for in a situation when a student withdraws from the college completely. And preliminary numbers were relatively low, but I would love to share that with the board and the leadership team. And then we're also looking at retention from semester to semester. So
Your Achieving the Dream coaches will be really pleased.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
We will take this data to the meeting
Good.
in
To
June
which
19th,
meeting?
the kickoff meeting for Achieving the Dream.
Oh, okay. All right, so no policies, board, we're on board reports. Okay, committee appointments. So we will have, so we have our media and marketing committee, which could very well be temporary or episodic. depending on what's happening. Something that, we wouldn't necessarily have all the time, but we certainly want to have it now to work on some issues. And so Kathy and Pablo have agreed to be on that. Our Finance Committee, Linda and Kathy. Our Legislative Committee, Linda and Martha. Foundation Board, Pablo, Martha. HEC, Chris is our chair now. And what we wanted to do was also create a veteran and other targeted populations committee so that we can work specifically on areas where we need it. And we know veterans are a big issue. So Chris is going to be on that, and we need one other person. Pablo volunteered to be on that too. So these committees we know that we probably want a standing finance committee because we really want to get the board more engaged in the financial process, and probably the legislative committee because we need to engage more with that, and we have some potential legislation that we might want to take a lead on that will help our entrepreneurial students in certain areas. And then we can just work with the others and see how it's going to be more work for all of us, but it's a way that we can get more engaged and also address some issues that we need to work on. So I don't think we need a resolution or anything. I think this is what we can work on and see how it works and adjust it as needed, if that's okay with everybody. Okay. And is that it? Where's my paper agenda?
So just to remind everybody,
The next meetings, yes.
June 21st is a board retreat, and June 24th is the next regular board meeting. It's the fourth Tuesday instead of the third because of some of us being out of town.
Traveling, yeah, okay. And the board retreat will be at Hotel Santa Fe, and we're hoping for a bigger room.
Hotel Center?
In the library, which is...
The library.
At what time?
Is a little bigger. So everybody's got that on their calendar.
Where?
For Hotel Santa Fe, where we've done it before.
Okay.
At 8?
We're doing, I think...
8:30?
It's 8:30.
Room from like 8 to 5, so
Let's do 8:30.
8:30, okay.
It is a Saturday, yeah.
And we're doing Friday. Oh, that's.
Oh, and Friday,
Do we have to post Friday?
well, I think we do,
The whole board
yeah.
is there, so we need to post Friday evening too, then.
So Friday evening,
It'll be a work session, basically.
yeah, we'll have a dinner.
Friday we have.
And a tour of
We're gonna do
the
a tour.
campus of all the
Right.
different areas for those people who.
What date is this?
The 19th, the day or the 20th?
Yeah, the
What-
20th.
The 20th, the night before our retreat on the 21st.
And what's the time of that?
The-
4 o'clock.
The tour would be 4. And the details of the dinner to come
So the tour is at 4 o'clock.
here.
Where are we going to tour?
We're going to go around to some of the...
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
Here.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
Time on that again,
Nice.
please?
4.
19th.
20th.
That 20th.
Friday, it's the 20th.
It's Friday,
20th.
20th. And then Saturday, 8:30 will be the retreat.
Got it.
But they both have to be publicly noticed, so.
Yeah.
All right.
So now we have a closed session?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion to go into a closed session for the purposes of discussing limited personnel matters and litigation.
You're so used to making the motion.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.